You'll never be the kind of man a woman marries. Juliet said it with a smirk, like she hadn't just stabbed me through the chest in the middle of her birthday party. The laughter from the living room drowned out the weight of her words. Her friends were still clinking glasses. Johnny was among them, slick hair, tailored blazer, grinning like he already owned her. Juliet didn't lower her voice. You're fun, Dale. You make people laugh. You make me laugh, but I can't build a life on laughs. I stared at her, trying to understand what part of me she was cutting away. The part that brought her soup when she was sick, that built her desk by hand when her office wouldn't send furniture, that helped her father through physical therapy twice a week? Marriage material, she repeated, as if the phrase itself had already sentenced me. You're like a great season of a show. You enjoy it, but you don't rewatch it. I felt the floor shift, but I smiled like it was all a joke I was in on. So, what does marriage material look like to you? She nodded subtly toward Johnny. Someone who doesn't chase ideas. Someone who has a plan. A man with edges. I didn't reply. I just looked at her and realized I had never really seen her before, not fully. When I turned to leave, I bumped straight into Marina. She had just stepped out of the hallway, holding a tray of untouched macarons. She froze, and for a second, we just looked at each other. Her eyes dropped for a moment, and then she whispered, "You heard?" I nodded. Her voice was low, like she wasn't sure which side she was allowed to stand on. "She's wrong about you, Dale." I shrugged. "Doesn't matter." But as I stepped past her, something slipped from her hand. Her phone. It landed face up. The wallpaper made my stomach twist. It was me. Not some selfie, not something casual. It was a photo from Juliet's graduation night Marina had taken. It, I remember. I was smiling in the background, holding Juliet's coat. The image was edited with a soft filter, and across the bottom were the words, "Dream Husband" in cursive. Marina snatched the phone up too fast. "I didn't mean for you to see that." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The air between us said it all. The next day, Juliet posted pictures online with Johnny. "Future goals," the caption read. I was tagged in one of them by mistake. She had cropped me halfway out. I didn't reply. I just went silent. 2 days later, Marina texted me at 11:48 p.m. "I'm sorry." I almost didn't answer. Then I did. "What are you sorry for?" "That she never saw you." That same night, she sent another message. A picture of the graduation again, no filter this time. Just us in the background, laughing, caught in a moment I hadn't even realized was captured. Juliet had always loved the spotlight. Marina watched it from the wings. I didn't know it yet, but that night marked the beginning of something I wasn't ready to name. 3 weeks later, Juliet announced her engagement to Johnny. The invitation came with gold lettering. She didn't bother mailing mine. It was handed to me at work by someone else. "She said you'd want to see it," they said, shrugging. I didn't respond. I just handed it back and returned to the conference room. When Marina called that night, I answered on the first ring. She didn't say anything at first. Then she whispered, "I don't think she knows what she's doing." I asked, "Why are you telling me this?" There was a pause, then she said, "Because I hate seeing you erased." 2 months later, I walked into that same conference room with a contract that turned my freelance firm into a full-scale consultancy, $1 million valuation. Johnny was at the same event, drinking champagne. Juliet clung to his arm. She looked stunned when she saw me, not because I was there, but because Marina was with me. Wearing the blue dress Juliet had once said made her look like an extra. Everyone saw her that night. Everyone saw me. Juliet pulled Marina aside later, but I didn't follow. I didn't need to hear it, because when Marina returned, she asked me if I was doing this to hurt her. I raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" I told her no, I'm doing this because you're the man someone marries. Before Juliet ever called me not marriage material, she used to call me her forever plan. Back when she still wore oversized sweaters to bed and called me at 3 a.m. just to hear my voice. Back when we used to dance barefoot in her apartment after midnight, laughing like the world couldn't touch us. Back when I still believed love, on its own, was enough. My name is Dale. I don't come from money. I don't have family connections. My parents were teachers, hardworking, kind, and invisible to the world. Everything I built from scratch, with long nights, stubborn pride, and an idea I refused to let go of even when rent was overdue. Juliet was never supposed to be in my story. We met in college, during a debate about ethics in artificial intelligence. I thought she was just another rich girl who liked to argue, but she was sharp, fearless and absolutely relentless. She ran circles around the room and then came to sit next to me, casually stealing my pen mid-discussion. When I reached for it, she smirked. "If you want it back, you'll have to. Vita beat me in the next round." I didn't, she destroyed me. And still, the next day, she brought me coffee and said, "I like how you think, you just don't know how to win yet." That was Juliet, brilliant, blunt, beautiful in that kind of way you notice too late, after she's already turned your world upside down. We started dating a week after that. Juliet had always been bold. She liked to test limits, flirt with danger, and dress in ambition like it was second skin. Her dreams were skyscraper high. Everything had to be sharp, her eyeliner, her words, her goals. Being with her felt like trying to hold fire and not get burned. But I didn't care. I wanted to be close, even if it hurt. At first, it worked. We fit together in a way that made people pause. I grounded her. She challenged me. She pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I pulled her back when she went too far. We were good, until we weren't. The shift happened slowly. At first, she stopped asking about my work. Then she started comparing me to Johnny, her co-worker at the firm. "He's so composed," she said once. "Knows exactly where he's going." I bit my tongue. I didn't wear suits like Johnny. I didn't walk into boardrooms with inherited confidence or a company name behind me. I was still figuring things out. My business was growing, but it wasn't flashy. It didn't impress people at parties. Juliet stopped showing up at my pitches, stopped holding my hand when I talked about future plans. Her encouragement faded. Her patience wore thin. One night, I came home early, flowers in hand, only to find her dressed up and ready to leave. "Dinner with a client," she said quickly. "Can't miss it." "Which client?" I asked. She hesitated. "Johnny." I nodded. Didn't ask more. That's when I realized I wasn't part of her future anymore. I was just something soft she leaned on when life got too loud, and Juliet didn't like soft. The final blow came 2 weeks later at her birthday. A rooftop party in the middle of the city, string lights swaying, drinks flowing. Everyone from her firm was there, including Johnny. He gave a toast that night, spoke about ambition, drive, the kind of partners who make you stronger. He never said my name, but I knew who he meant. After the toast, Juliet found me alone by the railing. The skyline glittered behind her. "You looked uncomfortable," she said, tilting her head. I was fine. "No, you weren't. You don't like this world, do you?" "I like you," I said. That should have been enough. She smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was condescending. "Dale, you're a good man, you really are, but you're not marriage material." I didn't speak, couldn't. It was the most carefully worded rejection I'd ever received. She didn't cry, she didn't apologize, she just kissed my cheek and walked away, into a crowd that had already forgotten I was there. That was Juliet, elegant, brutal, certain, and somehow, in the midst of all that, her sister Marina had seen me. Marina was the opposite of Juliet in every possible way. Quiet where Juliet was loud. Soft where Juliet was steel. People often forgot they were related at all. While Juliet walked ahead of the crowd, Marina lingered behind with the camera, capturing moments, studying people. She was gentle in ways that didn't scream for attention, but left echoes long after the room had emptied. She and I had rarely spoken much when I was with Juliet, polite hellos, brief laughs over shared glances, but nothing real. Juliet never liked when people got too close to me. Still, Marina had watched. She noticed when Juliet spoke over me. I noticed when I stayed behind to clean while Juliet disappeared to network, noticed how often Juliet posted pictures of us, and how few of them were about us. So when her phone slipped from her hand that night, and I saw my own face saved under my dream husband, it shook something loose in me. I didn't know what I looked like to anyone anymore. I'd started to forget. Marina texted me the next day. "Just wanted to say, you didn't deserve that." I never thought I'd reply, but her honesty felt rare. "Thanks, I'm used to it." She responded with a single line. "Don't be." It was quiet support, but it stayed with me longer than Juliet's fire ever had. Over the next few weeks, Marina and I began to talk, not constantly, just enough. She'd send photos she took of the city, sunsets over the bay, a street violinist at dawn, a quote she saw graffitied on a train wall. Some hearts break open, others break free. I started to smile again. We never talked about Juliet, not directly, but she knew. Once, she messaged late at night, "Do you think some people only know how to want, but never how to keep?" I knew she wasn't talking about herself. The day Juliet got engaged to Johnny, Marina showed up at my door with takeout. No words, no pity, just chicken rice bowls and a movie I once told her I loved. She didn't ask me if I was okay. She didn't try to console me. She just sat with me, silent, steady, unshaken. That's when I realized something. Juliet had been addicted to the version of me she could fix. Marina didn't want to fix anything. She just wanted to know who I was. And slowly, without either of us saying it out loud, she became the one I leaned toward. When the engagement party came around, I didn't plan to attend, but Marina said, "Come with me, as yourself, not to prove anything, just to be seen." So I did. I walked in wearing the only tailored suit I owned, one I bought after signing my first big contract, and saw Juliet freeze mid-laugh. Johnny turned and blinked. Marina slipped her arm through mine. We didn't need to say anything. Later that night, Juliet found me by the drinks table. "You're looking different," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "Marriage material?" She laughed, but it sounded bitter. "Maybe." "Too late now," I said. Marina joined us, glass in hand, eyes calm. Juliet's gaze flicked between us. "Are you two?" Marina answered first. "Getting to know each other." Juliet didn't smile, didn't congratulate us. She just nodded and walked away. That was the last time I saw her before the wedding invitation arrived, with my name printed on it, not as a guest, but as the groom. It started with whispers. At first, it was just Juliet avoiding eye contact whenever she saw me and Marina together. Then it was Juliet's friends who began pulling Marina aside at family events, long whispers in the hallway, forced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. "You're dating him," one of them asked Marina during a fundraiser. "Wasn't he, like, almost engaged to your sister?" Marina's reply was calm. "Almost doesn't mean anything." But even I could feel it. Something was shifting, and Juliet wasn't just bothered, she was unraveling. She started texting me again, nothing inappropriate at first, just, "Hope you're doing well," or, "Saw your business in the papers, congrats." Then came the questions. "Do you remember that weekend we spent at the coast? Do you still have that record player I got you?" I didn't respond. Marina saw the messages. She didn't ask me to block Juliet. She never told me what to do. She just watched quietly, as if trying to see what I'd choose without being told. I chose silence, but Juliet escalated. One afternoon, Marina received a package, no note, just an old photo album. Every picture was of me and Juliet, smiling, laughing, embracing. Marina didn't say a word as she flipped through the pages. When she reached the end, she closed the album and placed it aside. "I guess she thinks history makes a claim." "She's wrong," I said immediately. "I know," Marina replied softly, "but I also know Juliet. She doesn't like losing, and she thinks you were hers first." "She gave me away," I muttered. "She made her decision." Marina met my gaze. "She never believed you'd become someone she couldn't reach." Days later, the tabloids got involved. A small, gossipy blog known for society scandals ran a story. From one sister to another, the man they shared. The picture they used was from Juliet's engagement party. One frame, 3 faces, me in the middle, Juliet glaring from the background, Marina on my arm. My inbox flooded. Business partners reached out, asking if I needed PR support. My mother called, worried. My clients stayed, but the noise was deafening. Juliet posted a cryptic story on social media. "Some people build lives out of leftovers." Marina never reacted to it publicly, but I saw the way she avoided her phone for 2 days straight. I found her in the garden one evening, hands buried in the soil, replanting hydrangeas with trembling fingers. "She's not just trying to hurt me," Marina finally said. "She's trying to make me ashamed." "She can't," I said, "not unless you let her." But the worst wasn't public, it was personal. Marina's father, Juliet's father too, called us both for a meeting. I wasn't surprised. He'd always liked me, but his loyalty lay with appearances. We met at the family estate, the same house where Juliet and I had once celebrated New Year's, where I'd once thought I'd propose. Now I sat across from the man who once called me the son he never had. He cleared his throat. "Marina, Dale, I asked you here because I need to be honest." We both sat up. "I've spoken with Juliet," he said. "She's struggling." I exhaled, trying to stay composed. "She made a mistake," he continued. "We all do. But the two of you, this relationship, it's messy. People are talking. Business associates are watching." I didn't respond, but Marina leaned forward. "Are you asking us to end things?" "I'm asking you to think about the consequences," he said carefully. "Juliet's marriage is on the rocks. Johnny's pulled out of the real estate merger. She's under pressure. This situation is fueling it." "So now it's our fault?" I asked. He didn't deny it. "I'm asking you to consider how this looks." Marina's voice was even. "And what about how it feels? What about me?" He hesitated. "Juliet loved Dale first." "No," Marina said. "She lost Dale first." He looked away. We left without saying goodbye. That night, I found Marina sitting in her art studio, staring at a blank canvas. Her hand was holding a brush she hadn't dipped in paint. "I feel like I stole something," she whispered. "Even though I know I didn't." "You didn't steal me," I said. "I walked away, long before we began." She looked at me with tear-rimmed eyes. "But you're in her stories, her past, her memories. I'm just the shadow she left behind." I knelt in front of her. "You're not a shadow, Marina. You're the future Juliet never saw coming." Still, things got worse. Juliet filed for divorce from Johnny 2 weeks before our wedding announcement. Rumors exploded that she still loved me, that she regretted everything, that Marina was the rebound, second prize. She didn't deny the rumors. In fact, she fed them. She made an appearance on a friend's podcast, voice carefully measured. I guess I just wasn't ready to settle down. I needed time to grow, and by the time I realized it, someone else had already stepped into my place. "Do you mean Dale?" the host asked. She laughed. "I mean, there's only one Dale, and only one man who ever really knew me." The internet lapped it up. I didn't respond, neither did Marina. But then, a letter came. Handwritten, no return address, just Juliet's name at the end. It read, "Dale, I don't blame you for moving on. I know I said things I shouldn't have, but if I'm being honest, I didn't think you'd become him. The version of you I always wanted, someone steady, powerful, decisive. Marina didn't get a new man, she got the one I built. I just wish I'd stayed long enough to enjoy it. Juliet." I read it twice. Then I burned it. Marina never asked what it said, she never had to. The silence between us had started to change, not into distance, but weight, the kind of heaviness that comes when the past won't stay dead, and the future hasn't quite formed yet. The night before our engagement shoot, I found Marina crying quietly in the bathroom. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't want to ruin this. I don't want to be second to anyone." I pulled her close. "You're not second." "But it feels like the world thinks I am." "Let them think," I whispered. "They don't know that when I was breaking, you were the only one who sat beside me in silence. They don't know that you saw me when I couldn't see myself, that I built who I am now with you, not before you." Her eyes softened. "Then marry me for that, not for revenge." "I'm not marrying you against anyone," I said. "I'm marrying you because of you." She nodded slowly, and I kissed her, gently, as if sealing a vow neither of us had spoken yet. But even as we moved forward, I could feel it. Juliet wasn't done. Every night leading up to the wedding, I woke up at 3:12 a.m. Same time, same silence, same weight in my chest that refused to lift. It didn't matter if Marina was sleeping beside me, her breathing soft and steady. It didn't matter if the wedding was only days away and the venue was booked, the guests confirmed, the rings paid for. I still woke up at 3:12, like something inside me refused to let go of what came before. I told myself it was stressful, nerves, natural doubt before a big decision. But I knew better. I wasn't doubting Marina, I was doubting myself. Not because I didn't love her, God, I did. She was the calm I never knew I needed, the person who taught me silence could be a sanctuary instead of a punishment. She never asked me to change, she just made it safe to grow. But even with that, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on a stage where the curtains hadn't opened yet, waiting for someone, to pull me back. The night after Juliet's podcast aired, I stood on the balcony and stared out at the city. Marina had gone to bed early. She didn't say anything about the podcast, but I knew she'd listened. I could see it in her eyes. The shift, the silent questions she didn't want to ask. What if Juliet was right? What if I had become someone new, for her? It stung because part of me knew the truth. Juliet had shaped me. Maybe not with love, but with rejection. With every "you're not enough," every sidelong glance at someone more polished, more predictable, more presentable. She was the reason I learned how to walk into a room and command it, how to wear silence like armor, how to make people listen before I spoke. But she wasn't the reason I stayed that way. That was Marina. Juliet had burned the house down. Marina taught me how to rebuild it, brick by honest brick. Still, the thought lingered. Would Marina always live in Juliet's shadow? Would people ever stop comparing them? Would I? One night, I found Marina sitting in the closet, not crying, not talking, just sitting. Her wedding dress hung behind her, ivory silk with hand-stitched petals along the sleeves. She was staring at it like it had betrayed her. I knelt down. "You okay?" She nodded, but I could see her lips tremble. "Is it the dress?" "No," she whispered. "It's me." I waited. "I keep hearing her voice," Marina said. "The way she used to say I was the safe one, the boring one, that I'd end up with a man who needed a backup plan, not a love story." "That's not what this is," I said quickly. "But what if it looks like that to everyone else?" Her voice cracked. "What if they think I just stood in the gap she left behind?" "You didn't." "I know you don't think that," she said, "but it's everywhere. Headlines, comments, whispers at my art show. Even the caterer asked me last week, 'Isn't your sister the one who was with him first?'" I reached for her hand, but she pulled away gently. "I love you, Dale, but I didn't fight for this life the way you did. I don't have a voice that silences rooms. I can't erase people's doubts. I just exist quietly. And sometimes I wonder if being quiet is the same as being invisible." "No," I said. "Being quiet just means you've mastered the art of listening, and you're the only person who's ever really heard me." She leaned into me then, resting her head against my chest. "Do you think I'm enough?" I kissed her hair. "You're more than enough. You're real, and no one's ever loved me the way you do." But I still woke up the next night at 3:12. The next morning, I went for a walk without telling her. The city was still asleep, and I walked until my feet ached. I ended up outside Juliet's old apartment. The lights were off, the curtains drawn. I stared at the building like it held answers I hadn't found anywhere else. Then, I heard the door open behind me. Juliet. Barefoot, robe, hair tied up in a messy knot. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice flat. "I don't know," I said. She didn't say anything for a long time, then she stepped outside and sat on the stoop. I didn't sit. "You look tired," she said. "So do you." Juliet looked up at me. "Are you happy?" I didn't answer. She smiled sadly. "That's what I thought." "I'm marrying your sister," I said, voice low. "This conversation shouldn't be happening. But it is. And it means nothing." "Then why are you here?" she asked. I stayed quiet. Because part of me didn't have an answer that would sound honest. She laughed softly. "Do you remember the coffee shop where we had our first real fight? You said I didn't respect you." "You didn't." She nodded. "Maybe not, but I wanted to. I just didn't know how to love a man who wasn't finished yet." I looked away. "Marina does," she added. "She loves your unfinished parts. I envy that." "I should go," I said. She stood. "Just tell me one thing." I turned. "If I hadn't said what I said that night, if I hadn't called you not marriage material, would you still be marrying her?" I looked her in the eyes. "No." She flinched. "I wouldn't be marrying anyone," I continued, "because I wouldn't be who I am now." Juliet's lips parted like she wanted to say something else, but she didn't. I walked away. When I got home, Marina was at the window. She didn't ask where I'd been, she just turned, her eyes unreadable. "Did you get your closure?" "No," I said. "I got a reminder." "Of what?" "That I almost married the wrong person." She stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. "Don't wake up at 3:12 anymore." I blinked. "You knew?" "I always knew." That night, I slept straight through. But I dreamed of Juliet for the first time in weeks. She wasn't angry in the dream, or cruel, she was just alone. And when I turned to walk away, she didn't follow. The wedding was 10 days away when Marina received the email. Subject line, "Just thought you should know." No name, no signature, no clue who sent it. Attached was a single file, an audio recording. The file was labeled Rooftop M4A. I was in the kitchen brewing coffee when I heard the sound, faint, shaky, tinny, like it had been recorded on a cheap phone. Juliet's voice filled the room. "She won't say no," Juliet was saying. "She never does, that's why I picked her." There was a pause, laughter, a second voice, unfamiliar, male. "You're really going to let her marry him?" "Let her," Juliet scoffed. "I'm handing him to her gift wrapped. I want her to feel what I felt, thinking she won, only to realize she's just holding the pieces I left behind." The audio clicked off. I turned slowly and saw Marina standing at the doorway, pale, frozen. "She picked me," she whispered. "What?" "She let me have you," Marina said hollowly. "Not because she thought I deserved you, but because she wanted to watch me fall apart." I rushed over. "Who sent this?" "I don't know, maybe Johnny, maybe one of her bitter friends, but it doesn't matter." "It does matter," I said, "because none of it changes how I feel." She shook her head. "You don't get it. I thought she resented me for taking you. But that's not it. She orchestrated this, the podcast, the album, the letters, all of it. She knew exactly how far she could push me before I'd crack." I pulled her into my arms. "Then don't crack. Don't let her win." Marina didn't cry. That was the scariest part. She just stood there, motionless, like someone had replaced all her warmth with silence. "She's in control again," she whispered. "And I don't know how to stop her." That night, I called Juliet. I didn't text, didn't email, I called. She picked up on the second ring. "Dale," she said, like it was a greeting she'd rehearsed. "You really went that far?" I said. "You played us?" There was a pause. "I didn't send the audio." "But you said it." "I don't remember." "Try." Another silence. Then, quieter. "Maybe I did, but I was angry. I didn't mean it." "You don't get to decide that anymore," I said. "You lost the right to define what you meant." "I just wanted you to think," she said, her voice sharpening. "You're making a mistake." I laughed bitterly. "By marrying someone who chose me?" "She doesn't choose, she accepts. That's what Marina's always done." "No," I said. "What she does is stay, through everything, without games, without needing to prove she's the one on top." "You say that like it's a virtue." "It is," I said. "Because she never had to tear someone down just to feel tall." Juliet's voice broke. "You never looked at me the way you look at her." "Maybe because she never looked down at me." Then I hung up. The next day, Marina was gone. No note, no bags missing, just gone. I searched every room, called her friends, texted her parents. No one had heard from her. I stood in the center of the apartment, staring at the untouched dress, the empty shoes, the unfinished vows on the table. Panic crept into my chest like slow, cold water. Then came the message, from an unknown number. "She's safe, she just needs space, no visitors." Attached was a photo. Marina sitting by a lakeside cabin, alone, arms wrapped around her knees. I recognized the place. It belonged to her aunt, remote, no signal. She'd gone there once before after her grandmother passed. She'd gone to run from the noise, and now, the noise was me. I stood there gripping my phone like it was the only thread left holding me to her. The apartment was too quiet. I hadn't realized how many of Marina's little details filled the space: the dried flowers on the windowsill, the stack of books beside the bed, the paint-stained apron still draped over the dining chair. Without her, everything felt staged, cold, lifeless. A day passed, then another. I didn't chase her. I didn't send her more messages. Because if I really loved her, really, I had to give her the one thing Juliet never had: freedom. Freedom to decide for herself if this love was hers, or just another hand-me-down in Juliet's war. On the 5th day, a package arrived at my office, no label, no sender. Inside was a canvas, a painting. It was me. Not perfect, not airbrushed, just me. Sitting in our apartment, reading, a coffee cup beside me, unshaven, quiet, soft light pouring in. It was titled, "The Man I Chose," and taped to the back was a note in Marina's handwriting. I needed time to remember who we are without her voice in my head. I found it again: your silence, my stillness. I choose you, I always will, just don't let me forget. I sat at my desk, the whole world blurring. Then I called the florist. "Add more wildflowers to the bouquet," I said. "She likes the messy kind." And when I said her name, it didn't tremble anymore. The wedding was 5 days away. Marina returned home on a Tuesday morning, her car pulling up just as the sun began to spill gold across the balcony tiles. She wore no makeup. Her eyes were tired, but her posture wasn't broken. It was still, composed, like she had returned from war, but hadn't surrendered. I opened the door before she knocked. We didn't speak at first. She stepped inside, set her bag down, and walked straight to the studio. I followed, unsure whether to apologize, explain, or simply hold her, but she spoke before I could. "You kept the painting." "I'd frame it if I knew how," I said. She didn't smile, but her gaze softened. I needed to step outside the noise. I needed to hear my own voice again. "And what did it say?" "That I still want to marry you," Marina whispered. "But not with her watching." I nodded slowly. "Then let's close her chapter." And that's exactly what we did. We rewrote our vows in silence that night, on the balcony, under soft string lights Marina had hung months ago for no reason at all. The city flickered below us like it was watching through half-closed eyes. This time, every line we wrote carried intention. Not promises to impress others, but confessions we hadn't yet spoken aloud. "I love you for the way you see," Marina said as she wrote, "not what you fix." "I love you because you never had to win me," I said. "You just stayed." By Friday, everything was ready. The ceremony was intimate, minimal press, no open invites, just those who mattered. But 2 hours before the wedding, Juliet showed up. I was in the dressing room when my best man, Johnny, yes, Johnny, who had once been Juliet's husband before she torched that too, knocked and stepped inside. "You've got a situation," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of situation?" "She's here, dressed in black, sitting in the last pew like she's watching a funeral." My stomach didn't drop. My pulse didn't spike. I just exhaled once, deeply. "Does Marina know?" "She will soon." I looked into the mirror. The tie was straight, cuffs buttoned, jawline tight, but behind my reflection, I saw something else, the last piece of the past trying to claw its way forward. "I'll talk to her," I said. I found Marina standing behind the floral arch, her bouquet cradled in both hands. She looked like a painting, not perfect, but alive, windswept and wild. "She's here," I told her. "I know. You want me to make her leave?" She shook her head. "No, let her stay." "Are you sure?" Marina turned toward me. "If she leaves, it looks like we're afraid. If she stays, it looks like she lost." I stared at her, stunned, not by the words, but the quiet fire behind them. Juliet's ghost hadn't been exorcised, it had been dethroned. We stepped into the aisle together. The music played, heads turned, cameras clicked in respectful rhythm. And there she was, Juliet, dressed in a high-neck black dress, heels crossed beneath the pew, lips pressed tight like she was holding in an opinion. But she didn't look at me, she looked at Marina. And for the first time, I saw it, something behind her eyes, not rage, not jealousy. Panic. Because she hadn't expected Marina to still shine under the weight, she hadn't expected her sister to walk through the fire without burning. We reached the altar, and that's when the moment hit me, not the kiss, not the ring, but the vow. I turned to Marina and said, voice clear, "You didn't choose the easier path, you chose me when I was still haunted, you held me when I was still shaped by someone else's rejection, You never asked me to become anything but honest, and I vow to keep showing up, not as a symbol, not as proof of revenge, but as the man you believed I already was." Her eyes welled, but her hand stayed steady as she replied. "I never wanted to outrun her, I only ever wanted to reach you. And now that I have, I don't need to prove anything else." We exchanged rings. We kissed. We walked out under a rain of petals and soft applause. And as we exited the garden, I glanced back once. Juliet was gone. Not from the seat, but from the war. The headlines came fast. Juliet's ex marries her sister, but the real story isn't what you think. From not marriage material to husband of the year, Dale and Marina's story breaks the internet. Marina rewrites the narrative with quiet power. We said nothing publicly. We didn't need to. But the climax hadn't passed, not fully. 3 weeks later, we received a letter. No envelope, no name, just a single page left at our doorstep. It read, "Marina, you were always the better one. I knew it when we were 10 and you gave away your prize just to stop me from crying. I knew it when you brought Dale soup while I was out partying. I knew it when you stayed and I ran. I didn't lose Dale, I lost myself before he even knew me. And watching the two of you now, quiet, strong, real, I finally get it. You didn't win, you just never played games. Take care of him, he's more fragile than he looks. J." Marina read it aloud, then folded it once and placed it in a drawer. "I forgive her," she said. I looked at her. "You don't have to." "I want to, for me. So I will never carry her weight into our future." That night, we danced in the living room to no music, just our breath, the hum of the fridge, the world quiet around us. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had something to prove. I just felt married. To the woman who had never needed me to become anything more than the man standing right in front of her. 6 months passed. Our apartment was still small, the coffee machine still moody, and the evening still filled with Marina's music humming through half-painted walls, but everything felt different, lighter. Not because the world had changed, but because we had, and because Juliet had finally vanished from our daily lives. Or so we thought. It was a Thursday when it happened. I was sitting in a cafe near work, reviewing campaign notes for a new client, when I heard it, Juliet's voice, not in my head, not in a memory, in a commercial. She was the face of a new luxury wellness brand, perfect lighting, flawless skin, soft acoustic music behind her. The narrator's voice whispered, "You've seen her rise, you've watched her fall, now, Juliet returns, real, raw, redefined." And there she was, staring at the camera like it owed her an apology. I stared at the screen, stunned. She was making a comeback, a rebrand. She was trying to turn us into her launchpad again. That night, Marina already knew. She had seen it too. The emails had begun trickling in, offers for joint interviews, exclusive Sisters Reunited segments, magazine spreads, spinning Juliet's narrative, but Marina only said 3 words. "Let her talk." I looked at her. "You're okay with that?" "No," she said, "but I'm not going to chase a ghost. She wants attention, we give her silence." But I couldn't. Because this wasn't just Juliet healing, this was Juliet rewriting. 1 week later, I got the call. From Nathan Liu, a documentary producer. "Dale," he said, "we want to tell your story, not the drama, the truth, from your voice, your timeline. You were silenced for too long." I told Marina that night. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Only if I tell mine too." We agreed. The cameras came, the scripts were tight, no exaggerations, no theatrics, just facts, footage, messages, podcast clips, timeline receipts, the art show sabotage, the fake engagement stunt, the planted rumors, the rooftop audio, all of it. It was called Unwritten Vows. It aired on a Thursday evening, and by Friday morning, Juliet's rebrand collapsed. Her sponsors pulled out. Her brand's comment section turned into a war zone. And most devastating of all? Her sister never said a single cruel word about her. Just this line. "Some people climb mountains to feel powerful. Others just walk past them, quietly." The silence was louder than any scream. And it broke Juliet. 2 weeks later, she held a live stream. Nearly 70,000 viewers tuned in. She began to be confident, smiling, but as the comments poured in, screenshots, timeline corrections, fan theories, her poise cracked. "I made mistakes," she said, "but that documentary is one-sided." Then someone asked in the chat, "If it's one-sided, why does your sister still refuse to speak against you?" Her lips trembled. She ended the stream in silence. That was the last time she tried to reclaim the spotlight. But revenge wasn't the end. It never was. The true ending was what came next. We moved out of the apartment, not to run, but to breathe. A little town 2 hours outside the city, Marina got a small art studio with sunlit windows and slow customers who took time to look instead of scroll. I built a media consultancy, focused on truth-based branding. No spin, no manipulation, just raw, honest narrative control for people who had been misused by someone louder. Irony, right? Juliet taught me how to survive public character assassination. Marina taught me how to undo it. One afternoon, Marina placed an envelope on my desk. No name. Inside, an ultrasound photo. I looked at her, breath caught. She smiled. "I didn't want to be the first to say it, I wanted us to see it together." I didn't speak, I couldn't. Because at that moment, I realized Juliet had given me something after all. The rejection, the insult, the scar. It had all forged me into the man who could deserve Marina. Not out of pity, not out of luck, but out of earned clarity. Later that night, I stood in front of the same mirror from our old apartment, the one where I used to question my worth. I looked into my own eyes, no more trying to prove anything. I had the wife who never asked me to audition, and now, I had a future that Juliet could never rewrite. 3 months later, we held a small gathering at the cabin where Marina had once run to escape the noise. Just close friends. Johnny grilled by the lake, Marina's mother told stories, and I held my wife's hand, her other hand resting lightly on the small swell of her stomach. As the sun set, someone asked, "What would you tell your past self, Dale, the one Juliet said wasn't marriage material?" I looked around the quiet, the faces that stayed, the woman beside me, and I answered. I'd tell him she was right. Everyone paused, but I smiled. She was right, for her. I wasn't the man she wanted to marry, and thank God for that, because if I was, I never would have become the man Marina needed. Silence. Then Johnny raised a glass. To every man who got called not enough, may he find the woman who never needed more than truth. We toasted, and for the first time, there was no lingering pain, no hidden war, no ghosts, just peace. And in the background, soft wind passed through the trees, carrying away the last whisper of a name that once tried to define me. It didn't anymore. I was no longer the man Juliet rejected. I was the man Marina married. And that made all the difference.